Good afternoon, Andy Moss here, tradingadventures.com. Going to give you a Thursday market update in video format today, starting with the roadmap. We're still on a 4-hour time frame with the roadmap. Usually I post a 1-hour chart of each of the 4 major stock index futures, but I've had it on a 4-hour time frame here to show the recent highs and the series of what started as lower lows and lower highs, which has now turned the corner, and you can see the little highlights here. Got one missing here for some reason, but you can see the lower highs and lower lows has transformed into some higher highs and higher lows. Notice the price is above the weekly VWAP so far for this week, and we've got a swing high and a pivot low anchored VWAP in here, and the Bollinger Bands have kind of made this U shape. And then, really for since the tail end of last week, we've been in basically a sideways consolidation range as markets kind of figure out what's next. And the fact that there's prices are sticking up in this range, just small moves back and forth, generally in a slightly upward manner, that's a bullish consideration. A bullish consolidation pattern on this time frame. So all in pretty good shape here. We've got a decent pop in the small caps today. This is the Russell 2000 E-mini futures down here, and we started the day this morning. We got a nice pop, and then finishing up nice and strong here in the afternoon. And that's some rotation into those smaller cap names, some of the more interest rate sensitive areas that we're going to dig into a little bit further here in a few minutes. But the Dow stocks likewise enjoying some relative strength today, as the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100 just kind of chugging along here, riding that purple line, that week-to-date anchored VWAP on the futures. Looking at the ETF version, you're going to see the same thing. We're still on a 30-minute chart over here, and same information, little bit different view since last week, just really kind of coming along flat. And now the blue line here is the 5-day moving average, and so it's caught up to price. It's trying to provide some support in here on the SPY, and same over here with the Qs. The strength in the small caps, IWM, and the Dow 30, the DIA over here, a little, you can see it's a little further above the blue and the purple lines there, showing another view of that relative strength. Crypto, on the other hand, is still struggling a bit. So looking at this chart of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and Litecoin, it's trying. It's getting. It's kind of made a bit of a turn here, and Bitcoin, for instance, has put in a bit of a higher high. This is a little higher than this, and this low is certainly higher than this low. So it's constructive action, but still not out of the woods yet. Ethereum finding some resistance here in this mid to low 3,200 range, and Solana kind of the same thing. This yellow shaded area here has been a bit of a congestion area or a pivot level that is adding some resistance to Solana. So let's go over to our daily charts now and start with we'll start at the top, just SPY, and we'll zoom in here a little bit. And remember, we saw this high back on October 29th that got sold off pretty handily. We'll get this out of there, and we can see that this dip came down and kind of undershot this pivot level here, and it's been coming back up very strongly. The Thanksgiving week was full of incredible strength, and so now we're just kind of consolidating in a sideways motion here at those highs, recent highs there, and testing this, probing this 685 area on the SPYs, with all-time highs not very far away, less than 5 points above that there. So as the 8-day moving average catches up to the price, and the 21-day is starting to curl and move higher, and then of course we've got the 50-day and the 200 days way down here. So healthy action overall. Same story on the Qs. Looking at this, we'll just go ahead and take that guy off of there, and this is kind of the level that we really would like to see price get and stay above. That was a high of 624.86 back on November the 12th. We touched that today, maybe exceeded that just a little bit, getting up to 624.94, and then coming back in a bit. So not, look at all these green candles in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Buyers controlled the day 8 days in a row, and now on the 9th day we're finally getting a little bit of selling here that is persisting, and we're still off the lows of the day. So nothing wrong with this action at all. We can note that the Bollinger Bands are basically flat right here and a bit wide. So, we probably wouldn't be surprised to see some more consolidation down into maybe this area, the middle 615, 16, 17 area there, before resuming a trip back up to recent highs or all-time highs, which is this pivot high on October the 29th is at 637.01. So that's if strength is to persist. It certainly looks that way, but we don't know for sure. So that's kind of one of the things we'll be watching for. Looking at the Dow, again, more of the same. Lots of strength here, a little bit of consolidation, and just creeping higher back up into these highs. And so what we want to see is, can it keep going? Does it consolidate a little bit first? And then when it gets here, let's just put a little 484.40 was the pivot high from this day. Does it pay any attention? Does it slice right through it, or does it find some resistance and consolidate some more? We'll have to wait and see. But so far, the long-term action is bullish with a sharply rising 50-day. The 200-day still coming up, and the short-term moving averages are still here very close under the price, with the 21-day rising again. So that's all good action there on the indices so far. Rounding it out here with IWM, and looky there, it touched that October 15th pivot high today. That was 252.77, and now we've got today's high was 252.66, so about 11 cents short. And it's worth noting we have a DeMark 9 sell setup printing on the chart here. That's not necessarily an actionable signal. It's just another piece of context of which to be aware. And a lot of times I do find that it is useful information. Doesn't mean price turns around and goes straight back down from here, but it is a potential exhaustion signal, a short-term exhaustion signal, saying, hey, maybe the buyers run out of steam here a little bit. And again, that doesn't mean a sell-off way back down, but it could mean more sideways action just under this 252.77 level before it can go on to make progress higher. In the meantime, the dollar, zoom out on the chart here a little bit. The dollar got above this pivot and above the 200-day and looked pretty good. We still have an anchored VWAP from this high, which was back in, was it at like January of this year. But before we can even have to worry about that, we need to see it gather some strength here. Maybe the 50-day can add some support and it comes back up. Otherwise, you can see that this was kind of a failed move, and it's just drifting lower right along this declining 200-day moving average, and now down on the 50-day moving average for a couple of days. So no big moves there in the dollar. A little bit of firmness, trying to kind of build a base and recollect itself after putting in this double bottom here back in the summertime and into the fall. So we'll see what happens there with the dollar. And let's move in now and check out some of the Mag 7 names. Apple, hang on here, let me fix that scale and go back. And so here's Apple. Really nice relative strength. It kept going up when a lot of other things didn't after getting out of this consolidating area here on up into new highs. And there's that DeMark 9 setup again. And I want to point out, it doesn't mean price goes straight down from here. We had one print over here, and it meant the buying was slowing down, and we can see that in hindsight. We made another high on earnings day, but then it's just consolidating after that. So here's another one. It didn't mean a sell-off. It just meant some correction through time and consolidation. Price can correct in one of two ways, by time or by price. In this one, it corrected by price. We had a pretty sharp pull-off here from 241s down into 226. We do have PCE jumping ahead a little bit to looking at the calendar. We do have PCE tomorrow. People will be very keyed into that and see what effect that may have on the overall marketplace and businesses, expenses, and that kind of thing. So, after such a strong run, a little bit of consolidation certainly should not be surprising to anyone. AMD below a rising 50-day moving average and really trying hard to stick to that level for a couple of weeks now. And yesterday it looked like it wanted to break above, but it didn't last, and so it's back down here. This 8-day, the faint yellow line, is curling up slightly and kind of holding the price up today. Here's the VWAP from this pivot low anchor, and this could go either way. The long-term moving averages are pointing higher. The 21-day is pointing lower. We still have this earnings VWAP overhead right here, so AMD's kind of stuck right now, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it move either way. It could go back down and test this 187 area, or maybe it finds some strength or some news or whatever it takes to lift it back over the red line, the blue line, the orange line, and get back up into this area. So nothing pressing in AMD. Amazon, another one, kind of stuck. Look at these lines here, pushing down on it as it tries to hold this pivot at 228.44 with the 50-day just under the price as we look at it right now. So Amazon just kind of trucking along sideways. Google has been relatively strong for quite a while now, even getting above this Fibonacci extension and then consolidating as the 8-day catches up here. This is a bullish consolidation pattern at recent high prices. Everything is all the support, all the moving averages, the anchored VWAPs, of which I have a lot on here. We can clean some of these out and clean up the chart a little bit. There's a lot going for this stock right now, and we should be on the lookout for continuation higher. That's the more probable result of a pattern like this. We'll see what happens in the coming days and weeks. Meta finally getting some strength on, I think they announced a cost-cutting effort today, which gapped it up strongly, and it touched this pivot here, which was a low from back in June, and the 50-day moving average here, which is coming down. So no surprise to see sellers get engaged as price came into the 50-day and the 200-day and kind of pull this back in. People are eager to take profits on that. If they've been holding through all of this downturn, they're probably thinking, okay, this is a chance to lighten up. So the sellers come in a little bit and take some off, which is not a surprise. It does, it is improvement. The 8 and the 21-day, the earnings VWAP, they're all rising again down here. But to get through this level solidly could take a few more days. If the buyers want to push it up, it may not be able to go instantly like it gapped up today. So there's a look at Meta. Microsoft is struggling a little bit. Microsoft down here at the 200-day moving average. It tried to bounce and get away from it and kind of couldn't stay up here. So Microsoft still has some work to do. Nvidia, kind of the same thing. We clean this up a little bit here, and it's just a little bit stuck. The lower bands are kind of flat. This VWAP is kind of flat. The 50-day is flattening out. We have a little bit of a slope here on the 200-day down around 154. But with the 21-day and the 50-day above, even earnings couldn't lift it back up. It gapped up here on earnings day, and once again, profit takers were quick to get engaged in driving the price back down here. So just working off some supply as it continues this. I mean, price is the same place today as it was back on this move in July. So, but again, after moving so far from the 87s up to 207, 211, that's a long way in a relatively short time frame, and so not really surprising action there at all. Tesla, last one of the Mag 7 we'll look at today. It's gathering itself and back above all the moving averages here for 2 days in a row and gapping and holding the gains today. It's nearly touching this upper Bollinger Band. If it continues the strength, this will start to curl up and the bands will start shifting higher, and it could be looking at a move back to the 488 pivot in time. Again, a lot of progress here in a relatively short time frame, but with all of these moving averages and an anchored VWAP here underneath, as well as some this 419.99 pivot level has been important for a lot of different tests now, both as support and as resistance in here. So as long as it stays above here, then maybe it gets back first into the 460s and then possibly on into the 488s. So shifting gears just a little bit on some of the more active themes today. We've seen things like nuclear. NLR, this is the uranium and nuclear ETF from Van Eck. It came back up into its 50-day moving average here and kind of capping off. I say capping off, we don't know that the move is over, but just adding to this rise off the hammer back here on November 21st. Quantum names are enjoying some strength today. You've got another really solid move here. So just showing some rotation as some of those Mag 7 or mega cap names kind of stagnate, not including Apple and Google, but some of the others. The buying has stepped back into some of these hotter sectors, if you will. So looking at some of those, we see a lot of good action in there. So some, just some rotation. The buyers are still active, just not broadly across the board. It's been pretty selective. So there's a high-level overview of the technical situation of the major indices and some of the Mag 7 stocks. We see a lot going on in certain areas, but again, with so many things moving so far, we're also seeing some consolidation now. So after, just to pick on quantum here while I've got it pulled up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days higher in a row, with, or excuse me, 9 green candles in a row. This day was down a little bit relative to the previous day, but back above all of the key moving averages. The strength is there, so don't be surprised if we see some consolidation in these type of names too before they think about making a trip back to new highs. That's it for now. We'll be back on Saturday morning with a look at the weekly charts and kind of step back and take a gander at the bigger picture there. So hope you guys have a good night and a good rest of your week. We'll see you Saturday morning.